Hi, yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Now this is a last minute Thanksgiving Corny Corn Coaster for my friend. And I thought I would share with you what we came up with. She's kind of a silly person like me, loves to have fun, entertaining parties. And she's having a bunch of people over for a Thanksgiving get-together. And her theme is corn, because they always make this incredible corn pudding. I don't know if it's a vegetable or a dessert, but it's very tasty. And so she wanted some corn coasters and decorations. And I told her, I said, this could be place settings. You could take a little card and write their name and set it on there, put one on each plate. Then they have a coaster. And it is a big coaster. It's about 6 inches by 6 inches. And they're super easy to make. Now this one I made out of acrylic. And this one I made with cotton yarn. And I was kind of going for that fancy Indian corn that's so pretty. And so there's 2 ways that you can do it, of course, with different colored yarns. And of course, you don't have to make yellow corn. You can do your corn any colors that you want to. And I really love the way it turned out. He's kind of chubby. He has his little corn husk around him, and he's got a little silk hair here. Or she. You know, might be a little girl with a ponytail. Anyway, they're super fun. Perfect little last minute project for Thanksgiving if you want. Or if you just want to make corn coasters, because they're just super fun. And they're also really, really easy and takes hardly any yarn. Okay, now I have the written pattern as always. I'll put that pattern link that has pictures and information on it. And you can find that pattern link down in the notes underneath this video. I know, I'm corny. All right, so to make our little corny corn coasters, you're going to need about 1 ounce of your basic color. And I'm going to use this yellow cotton medium weight number 4. And whether you're using cotton or acrylic, you need a medium weight number 4 yarn. And this is the yarn that I used for this one. I bought this from Hobby Lobby. I think it's called Harvest Blend, but I can't remember exactly. But it's very pretty, has lots of yellows and golds and some cream. And I think it does look like that beautiful, fancy Indian corn. I just love it. Okay, but this is just a bright yellow and a bright green that's acrylic yarn. But for today's demonstration, I'm going to use this yellow. It's a little softer in color. And I'm using this green, which is the same as this. And then you need a little bit of black and white. And this one I did with brown. But for the eyes and the mouth, and then a little bit of white where I used cream on this one. You could use cream as well. Just for the corn silk hair. And I'm just going to use white and black that I have on hand. All right. So about 1 ounce of your main color and about 1/2 ounce for your green. That's probably more than you need. We're going to use an H-hook, which is a 5mm, to stitch up our corny corn coaster. You need a needle for weaving in ends and attaching the face. And then, of course, you're going to need a pair of scissors. This is a super fun, a little bit silly, and a little bit useful project. Now you're going to start with your main color, and we're going to stitch up the inside. It's going to look like an egg at first. And then we're going to stitch this outside section, and then, of course, finish up with the face and the silk strands. All right. So we're going to begin with a slip knot, and we're going to chain 7 chains. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to place a single crochet in that second chain from the hook, and then 1 in each across. And that's going to give us 6 single crochets. And the whole body of our corny corn, I just love saying that, is all stitched in single crochets. All right, and then chain 1. So for row 1, we chained 7. We single crocheted in the second chain from the hook, and then in each chain across. So we have 6 single crochets. We chained 1, we're going to turn our work, and we're going to place 2 single crochets in this first single crochet. So 1 and 2. Then we're going to stitch a single crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that leaves 1 stitch, and in this last stitch we're going to stitch 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2 and chain 1. So for row 2 we have 8 single crochets because we increased at the beginning and the end of our row. Now for row 3 we've chained 1, we're going to turn our work, and we're just going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 8 single crochets across. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And chain 1. All right. All right, let's do our 4. We've chained 1, we're going to turn our work, we're going to place 2 single crochets in our first stitch. So 1 and 2, then we'll place 1 in the next 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then in this last single crochet, we're going to stitch 2. 1 and 2 and chain 1. Okay, so now on row 4, we have 10 single crochets. We chained 1, we're going to turn our work and just stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 10. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there we go, 9, and 10, and chain 1. And you can see how we're shaping our corny corn. All right, so now we're ready for row 6. Okay, so we're going to turn our work. We're going to place 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2. Then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in the next 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then in our last one, we're going to stitch 2 single crochets. 1 and 2 and chain 1. So now we have 12 single crochets. We've chained 1, we're going to turn our work, and we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 12 single crochets all the way across. I have stitched a single crochet in each of those 12 across, and I chained 1. Now we're going to turn our work, and we're on row 8, and we're going to stitch 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Then we'll stitch 1 in the next 10. There's 9 and 10. And then the last stitch, again, we're going to stitch 2 single crochets. And that will give us 14 single crochets. We'll chain 1 and turn, and then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 14 single crochets all the way across. All right, so we have 14 single crochets across, and we chained one and turn our work, and we're going to do one more set of increase stitches, and this is row 10. We're going to place 2 single crochets in the first, and then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in the next 12, and then 2 single crochets in that last stitch. So we stitch 2 in the first one, 1 in the next 12, and 2 in the last. So we have 16 single crochets. All right, and so now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and again just stitch 1 single crochet in each of the 16 stitches across. So we chained 1, we turned, and we stitched 1 single crochet in each of our 16 single crochets across. And so now what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat row 11, which was that row we just did, for 3 more rows. Chain 1, turn, 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets, and we're going to do this for 3 more rows. I stitched those 3 additional rows of 1 single crochet in each, and again those rows all have 16 single crochets, but I'm going to flip it this way so that you understand this is the top of our corny corn. Okay, and now we're going to be working the bottom portion of our coaster. All right, so here's our chain 1. We're going to turn, and we're going to do some decreases. Okay, so we're going to go in the first 2 and stitch those together. So we're going to go in, pull up a loop, then go in the next one and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook instead of 2. Yarn over and go through all 3 of those. All right, and then we'll stitch across until we reach those last 2 stitches, just stitching 1 single crochet in each. And then when we reach those last 2 single crochets, we're going to stitch those together just like we did the first 2. So here's my last 2 stitches, so I'll go in, pull up a loop, then go in the next one, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 and chain 1. So now I have 14 single crochets instead of 16. So chain 1, turn, and we'll just repeat what we just did. So we'll decrease or stitch 2 together, 1 single crochet in each all the way across until we reach those last 2. And then when we reach those last 2, we'll stitch the last 2 together. Here's my last 2 stitches, and I'm stitching them together and chain 1. All right, so this is how it looks, and I'm going to turn it so you can see how it looks this way because we're decreasing down. All right, so we've chained 1, and we're going to repeat what we just did. So we're going to stitch the first 2 together, single crochet across, again until we reach those last 2, and then we'll stitch the last 2 together. There's our last 2. We'll stitch them together, chain 1 and turn, and repeat. And each row we're going to have less and less stitches in between. And you want to decrease this down to where we only have 6 single crochet stitches on our last row. All right, so here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is our last decrease stitch. So we'll stitch the first 2 together, stitch the next 4, and then stitch the last 2 together in a decrease and chain 1. All right, so let's take a look at this. It does kind of look like an egg. When we turn it this way, this is the top of our Corny Corn Coaster. And this is how it should look at this point. And it may not look perfect because we haven't put the trim on it yet. Okay? Your last row should have 6 single crochets because we decreased down to 6. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to stitch an even row of single crochet all the way around. So we're going to evenly single crochet all the way around our corny corn. All right, now we want to try to make it nice and smooth. You want to try to stitch in the sides of the stitches, and there is not a set amount of stitches that you need. You just want to make it nice and neat. Don't bunch your stitches up too much, and don't get too much space in between. And if you want to count your stitches and make sure you have the same amount on each side, you certainly can, but it's really not necessary. All right, so I'm just going to evenly stitch single crochets all the way around and meet up back over here. So I began over here and I evenly single crocheted all the way around, and then I joined back over here with a slip stitch and cut my yarn. I'm done with my yellow. All right, so now I'm going to use my green, and we're going to form those green edges. I think those are called the husk, right? I'm not sure. How about we'll call them corn leaves? Alrighty, so we're going to bring in our green. And so what we want to do is mark where we're going to stop over here. And you need to count up 14 rows. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. All right, so then we want to mark that with a stitch marker. You don't have to. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. It just makes it a little bit easier if your stitch marker will go in. That way you know where to stop without having to keep recounting it. And then you can just go across here because you want this side to be even. There we go. And then you'll know where to stop up here. Turn around because we're going to come back around this way and up here and then back down this way. All right? All right, so what we're going to do with our green is we'll go right in that stitch and stitch a single crochet, and then we're going to single crochet up the stitches that we made until we reach our stitch marker or the side of our row, marking up from the bottom, counting up 14 rows. And if you don't like where I placed it, you want it higher or lower, of course you can change that. Totally up to you. Alrighty, I'm almost there. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. Then I'll make 2 more stitches. Alright. Now we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to slip stitch in the next 3 stitches. All right, and now we're going to turn and we're going to single crochet in that last single crochet that we made, and then we'll single crochet back down the side of the stitches that we just made. Oh, I've got a knot there. I'm just going to ignore it for now, but normally I would take it out and do the Russian join. All right, so let's take a look at this real quick. This looks like it's sticking up. So what I do is I just sort of pull on it and pull it down, kind of pinch it, and it will curl down. If it doesn't, you can put a little water on that and pin it to a blocking board, but they usually do. Okay, so now we're going to continue around across the bottom where we placed those stitches. There we go. I'm trying to make sure that knot's on the back side so we don't see it. Like I said, normally I'd take it out, but with this, we're in the middle of a demo, so I'm not going to take the time. But Russian join would work really great there. All right, now we're going to keep working in those stitches, working up till we meet that stitch marker on the 14th row on this side. Working up the side. Alrighty, almost there. And you don't have to mark those with the stitch markers if you don't want to. You can always use just a piece of, another piece of yarn or something else. But I like to mark it. It just makes it easier for me. Alright, now before I do my chain 4, I'm going to look to make sure everything's even across. Okay, now I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to slip stitch in that second, third, and fourth chain. And now we're going to turn, and we're working on the front side of our work now. So we'll go right in that first single crochet and single crochet back down to the bottom. And again, you may have to pull that a little and twist it, get it a little wet, make it curl down. Alrighty, almost done. Now move around the bottom here. And we're going to meet back up where we started. All right, so we're back where we started. And we're going, looks like I need to do 2 more single crochets there, just so it looks nice and neat. And then we'll just slip stitch in the next and tie off. Grab that loop. Come here, loop. There we go. And we'll tie off to the back. Now we have a few ends to weave in here, but let's look at the front. We're going to flatten it out. And like I said, you may have to curl those a little bit. If you're going to give this as a gift, I do recommend that, you block it so it's nice and flat and the little curls stick out. But here's our corny corn, and it looks cute like this, but we're not done. It needs some silk and a face. All right, I'm going to take a minute and weave these in and then show you how to do the silk and the face. All right, let's do that corn silk real quick. And you're going to need 4 pieces. These are about, I don't know, 4 inches. I didn't really measure because we're going to trim them, of course. All right, so I've got 4 pieces. we're going to use, oops, got one more loop there. There we go. We're going to use 3 of them for the silk and 1 to tie. All right, so we're going to take 1 and we're going to put it right through this here where we have that. We're going to do it right in the center. All right, so there's 1. Now, you can put it over to the side to make it look cute, or like real hair or whatever. It's up to you how you do this. I'm just going to do these right in the center on this one. All right, there's 2, and then we'll do 1 next to it. I did the one in the center first to help center the other 3. All right, so now I've got 3 pieces of silk coming through. And we're going to take this 4th piece and just tie those on. Just like that, and then we'll just pull them up, almost like an upside down tossle. There you go. Now our corny corn has a silk topper. All right, let's give our corny corn coaster a face. You don't have to. It's really cute like this. If you like it like that, that's totally fine. And the placement of the face is totally up to you as well. You could put it farther down. I just like it up towards the top myself. All right, let's see. We're going to start with our mouth. We want it to be centered. And it's real important that you stitch through stitches and not through the holes in between. All right, so we're going to pull it up a little in the back. We're going to make a V. And I like to go over it twice. I'm going to go back up. There we go. Now I have a little V mouth. Super cute. And then I want to line up the eyes. But before I do that, I'm going to go underneath here. Because you want to try to keep the back as neat as possible. All right. Now, to make your French knot eyes on crochet, again, go up through the stitch, not the hole in between. All right. And what I usually do is I'll make a little loop underneath it, and that to me just helps it stay on better. Couple of wraps and go right in that loop that we made through the fibers, which this isn't how you do it when you do embroidery, but doing this sort of thing on the back of crochet can slip through, and we don't want to lose those eyes. Okay, so we'll do that again. Make the little loop. 1, 2, 3 wraps. And then we'll go right, oops, almost lost one of my wraps. Go right back in. There we go. Now we'll come to the back. And yes, you're going to have just a little bit of mess. You want to be real careful when you're weaving in, not to let the colors show through. All right. There we go. So now my corny corn coaster is all done and ready to be used. So here is 3 corny corn coasters, all made off the same pattern in different ways. This one we used a variegated yarn to make it look like the beautiful fancy Indian corn. This one is made acrylic in bright colors, and this one is made with cottons in a little more muted colors. And I did see that the acrylic one, you can see, came out just a little bit bigger. But it could be my gauge was different. So keep that in mind when working with acrylics. But again, if you're going to use these to put something hot on it, like a hot cup of coffee, or something that might sweat, you want to use cotton. But if you're just going to use it for decoration, maybe place markers, or hang some of these up on a bunting, then acrylic is okay. And really, acrylic is okay if you're just wanting to protect your surface and you're not going to be using anything that is super hot or super cold that might sweat. All right, so that's our Corny Corn Coasters. They're pretty corny, aren't they?